So the feedback that I'm getting says it cut out after you said the words Aspen coordinator. I can go back and look and see specifically. Do you need to review? I apologize.
Karen, you want me to read that again?
Yes, I would, please. And I'm sorry, folks.
I'm not sure why I did that. It's literally in the report. We're live again. You're good to go.
Ready?
Yep.
Sorry.
Picking up where the might be cut off, whereas the Aspen coordinator for JCHD, Jacqueline Brown, filed a complaint against Susie Davis, alleging multiple allegations of the board bylaws in the employee handbook, including those responsibilities outlined herein. And whereas the Board of Trustees retained an independent investigator to conduct an objective investigation of the complaint against Ms. Davis. The investigator prepared a written report attached here to as Exhibit B, which was reviewed by the Board of Trustees. And wherefore, on July 6, 2021, trustee Susie Davis was issued a censure by the majority of the Board of Trustees for multiple violations of the board bylaws and was admonished to adhere to all bylaws, rules, and procedures of the Board of Trustees. Ms. Davis was further advised that failure to perform her duties pursuant to the bylaws may result in the Board of Trustees taking action to impeach and remove her from her position. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the JCHD as follows. Number one, the Board of Trustees adopts the findings of fact and conclusions contained in the independent investigation report attached here to as Exhibit A. Number two, the Board of Trustees adopts the findings of fact and conclusions contained in the independent investigation report attached here to as Exhibit B. Number three, as a result of the findings associated with the complaints filed by Ms. Lomar and Ms. Brown, effective immediately, trustee Susie Davis shall be and is censured and admonished to adhere to all bylaws, rules, and procedures of this board. And number four, the Board of Trustees admonishes Susie Davis that failure to perform her duties pursuant to the bylaws of the Board of Trustees and the employee manual will result in this board taking action to impeach and remove her from the position.
Thank you, Ms. Coleman. Do I have a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
I have a second.
Second,
Have a person.
the resolution number.
Thank you.
Would be 23-04-27-01. My apologies.
So we have a motion to adopt resolution 23-04-2701. You made a second, Mr. Deal.
Yes, sir.
Discussion.
I would like to know how this is different. She was censured before back in 21. And the behavior this time is a continuation of that. And it's also additional, when it gets into, dealing with employees, because employees of Jefferson County Health Department fall under the jurisdiction of the board. So this becomes a lot more in depth legal wise, and our responsibility in this has a whole new level. So that's, I'm guessing, why the first censorship was not a written resolution. The second censorship,
Oh, the first one was also.
it was also written. Yeah. Okay.
But I believe this is different because it is dealing with personnel of ours directly.
Okay.
Is that not correct?
Correct. Your first censure was about the conduct during the meeting.
Yes. So this one takes on a new level of responsibility for the rest of us of the board when it's dealing with personnel and employees. So that's why we have to take this seriously. We're legally held bound to take this seriously. We had a separate, as it was stated in here, we had separate investigations and someone outside the organization that we have hired to look at the allegations, go through all the proof, and it is all listed in here. And if this gets passed, it will be attached to it so that it can be seen what actually went on and the proof of that. So just wanted to clarify that.
Any other comments?
I do
Yes,
have a
ma'am.
couple things. Being new on the board, I do understand frustrations from Susie's side and from the administration side. And although I don't believe Miss Davis, I'll call her Miss Davis, at times was inappropriate as far as the way she addressed the board, the information that she was wanting is heavily sought out after in the community. And that is mostly the financials, the Aspen program. And so for me, it's like, if she's not gonna get the information, then I'm gonna have to get the information that they're looking. And she was asking for specifically, was it the Aspen breakdown or the payroll breakdown? These last couple of meetings, I don't know exactly what you were looking for.
Grants,
And the breakdown and how
grant
they're spent.
pages where they were written and exactly what they needed to be used for.
The community
That information-
clearly here,
Information was given. Excuse me. Was here during the meeting. The information was given out about the grants, folks. All of
was
it.
it broken down to how?
It was,
was
each
broken
grant
down
was
to-
given, where it was coming from. She actually went to one of them.
We wanted to see the actual page, Mr. Tim, for what was applied for, so that we could see that it was specified to be used for Aspen. That's what we wanted to see. We didn't get that in our packet.
The investigation was about the falsehoods that was said to Miss Brown. We're talking about Aspen. If you read the report, it's not about information. It's about the false information that was in the derogatory comments and that type of thing. So it really has nothing to do with the requests for the money. If you read the report.
Chairman,
Mr. Deal.
folks, the reason you have questions is that you've been given false information. I understand that. I understand why you have questions. But it's because all you have to do is read this report. And you'll see, you shaking your heads, you haven't even seen this. I'm sorry, folks. You've been given false information. We're happy to answer your questions. But the reason you have questions is because of information that's not correct. Plain and simple. Read the reports.
I think.
We
want
could
to
all,
see them broken
we
down.
could disagree. I have no problem with people who don't agree with me. But it should be based on facts. Not on information that you've been given that's not correct.
Mr. Deal. Would you please direct your comments to me? Is there anything else, Mr. I'm sorry. Mr.
I
Deal?
do, only because I did read this front to back in 24 hours. And so I just have a couple questions. So who, just in general, who is the complaint made to? Ms. Palmer, where did the complaint go after she filled it out? How was it filled out?
It went to the personnel committee. That's who will get it.
And that is you guys now? Okay.
And it was then.
It was then,
Yeah.
okay, so it went to them, and then where does it go from there?
They authorized or went and authorized through
We authorized,
to get.
The first number, they directed me to find an independent investigator, but
So does.
Sorry, I didn't hear what she said.
The personnel committee directed her to find an independent investigator.
So does the board have to approve that expenditure to do that as a board, or is the subcommittee allowed to decide that
On,
it's,
on that, the subcommittee
okay,
makes that reference all the way up to the chair and the chair signs off on that.
okay. So then
So
you,
that way there's
so
a
then after you
three-person-
sign. it
There's a
went
three,
to-
well, not that one. I was not chair
Oh,
on that one.
Okay, on this one, or any of them, but that's the process.
Yeah.
And for any employee, if they have a complaint,
If it's-
then it goes to you, Ms. Palmer.
Well, it depends obviously what it is, where it's going, but an employee would go first to her, then it would come up the chain, yes.
Okay, just so I understand.
Under the board policy, the director, if it's an employee to employee complaint, the director has the ability
And that's kind of,
to designate someone, and we actually had it forwarded up to the personnel committee because we knew that we had another complaint as well. And so it was decided that in order to make sure that things were objective, we sent it out to the independent investigator as well. If a complaint is made against a member of the board, then it's in the best practices of board written and investigated.
a couple more questions. So, like I said, I've read through this binder, the employee handbook. Is there a specific book for that? Or was it just this binder and my orientation? Is there a specific, because there's several notes made in here, the employee handbook.
There's a section in your binder that says employee policy.
Is it, so it's policy, okay, so I just want to clarify that. And then we as a board follow this handbook, because I didn't see it in the bylaws. I know to conduct ourselves, we should, but it doesn't state in the bylaws that we abide by the employee handbook as the board.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was saying, Mr. Chair, the board approves the employee policy and procedure manual. That's where I'm.
The board is the employer as well, so the board is actually the one that's in charge of.
They're elected.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm sorry, but they are.
Mr. Chair, that the board is, if the board approves the employee handbook and the board is the employer, so the board has the ultimate responsibility to ensure that the handbook is followed.
And that we follow it as well, because. And I guess that's where I'm confused, if we're the employer, because we're not paid, we're elected officials.
We're not employees. We oversee the employee handbook.
But the employer, we're not the employer either.
Mr. Chair, may I clarify that
Yeah.
the board is the employer of the director? The board hires
Okay,
and reviews.
yeah, I'm just trying to clarify
So
that so that
that's
I
how-
understand. Okay,
And then when there's a personnel issue, so in closed session, when we have personnel issues, those are brought to the board for the final decision.
okay, and I knew that we kind of talked about that blank page. I just want to clarify like how the system works. Okay, and then. Since this involves comments. And I think when we had the orientation, I felt like hopefully I can bring the community and the board together. Because there's a trust issue. So as far as the comments. And I think that would take a lot of heat off Mr. Pigg, the chairman, and Susie for me to ask me if we can allow the public to come in and ask these questions, then you're not gonna have them all from us. So,
That's why we have a town meeting.
but they can ask questions, but they don't get answers.
Mr. Chair, may I clarify that in response to concerns from the community regarding having answers directly from the board, that all questions for several months have been forwarded and told to go to the communications to Jeffco Health email. Ms. Zwiener takes those questions, gets the answers to them, and reads them live at the board meetings in order to be able to provide those responses to the full community to ensure that accurate information is getting out.
How about on social media? Comments or questions there? I know we've elected to take that off of there. And is it something that maybe we could try to form some trust again? I think that's where, just from campaigning, these are things that I've heard. You know, we can't comment and I appreciate for being able to read those, but sometimes questions might not arise until they're right here in session, or we might, you know, they want to ask us questions as we're going through this agenda. That there can be more, I think that there's more interaction with the board and the public that wants to come and knows. And that's why we might not have people here, is because they know they can just listen, or they can do that at home. if people come in and can actually, I think there needs to be more face-to-face interaction. And I think that's gonna help bring the community together a little bit. Us and then,
I get it. And I have that on one of my to-do lists is to work into that area.
all right,
Mr. Chair, let me just make comments as far as the social media comments. I believe there's a very good reason to stop accepting those. And Brianne, I don't know if you kept any of those comments. A number of them were shocking to me, to say the least.
social media is brutal, but we still have a First Amendment.
I agree.
Comment, please.
Go ahead. You know,
My turn for comment. Every open session, right now, Facebook is a cesspool. Social media is probably the number one reason our kids are hurting themselves. Now, I know we're all older people in this room. The magnitude of social media is hurting our kids. And I, for one, would like to see it regulated down to where it's like, you can't do it like driving. 16, then you can start into it. And I know I digressed on that, but I don't particularly like it. I'm not on it for a reason. Because again, everything that I seen coming across our Facebook page was horrible, uncivil, uncouth. And it requires somebody to monitor that and then to start filtering that out. And that's a lot of time and a lot of effort. Like I said at the beginning of this, I'm gonna make sure we're back to civility, one way or another. Whether I gotta drag people or beat them there, we're gonna get there. I know, civil, I'm beating people. So that's my comment on social media. We can look into it, but I know the time and effort it takes to monitor that and to filter it out with people. And all of a sudden they start fighting on there and it just becomes a cesspool. Facebook is not a First Amendment issue, folks. It's an issue for our enterprise. It's a way that we don't even have to be on Facebook. We don't even have to do it, all right? It's an enterprise mechanism for us to get our information out to the people. What I've done, and of course, my placard fell, wanted to make sure that a communication process was in place, that we had an ability to make sure that everybody had that in place. But going forward, and I know we're really digressing off the issue here, but I am going to address the concerns across the board with some of the comments and stuff going forward. I don't know where that's gonna lead me, don't know where it's gonna be, but I'm gonna address it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
in repeat to what you just said, I agree with you, and a lot of what you're saying is, it's a cesspool. I personally watched the comments on Facebook. I was not allowed to make any. The health department, for whatever reason, wouldn't allow me to make any comments on our own page, but I watched them all the time and I never saw anybody threaten anyone. I never saw anybody cuss. I read them all.
Well-
I mean, I would love for you to show me some that were like that,
So-
what you're talking about, because
so
I
we
read
will-
them. And
I'm
there's people
telling you-
basically saying, why does Tim Higg, why is he so rude to Susie at a meeting, blah, 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 stuff like that.
Well,
Okay, but that's, that's
All this back-
how we saw
all
it,
this
that's how
back
they
to order.
felt.
so let's get back to the resolution at hand. Are there any other comments on the resolution as it sets? Is there any other addendums that we would like to make? Is there anything else? Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry.
I know.
Again, go
I
ahead.
have just a couple things. This is just a general blanket statement that because I'm new, I've read through this book and maybe it just needs to come to light of really why we're here. And it says the effectiveness of public health practices, policies and action depends upon public trust gained through decisions based at the highest level of ethical, scientific, and professional standards. Public health gains public trust, in part because the practices are informed by evidence. And then it follows up with public health decisions. Public health decision makers need to be transparent and honest about disclosing conflicting interests and influences. So that is in the code of ethics in this monster of a book I received here. And that just kind of rang true to me. It's like, yeah, we all need to really try to do the right thing and be cordial to in the meeting. So.
I couldn't agree more.
And I think that's. And it does just talk about more of communication with the public. And however we can come to that, if it's not social media, I get it. I see what toxic during my campaign, it was very toxic to my energy and my inner soul. You know, it really drug me down. So I get that one, especially when it comes at you personally. But maybe we can come up, and I know Brian's like super smart, and we can come up with some kind of communication. Well, I was just saying that because I'm live, but. That I think that's how we're gonna get to a better place for everyone is open communication.
I agree with you.
Okay, that's all I got.
All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Deal?
Yeah.
Henry, good with everything?
Mhm.
Is there anything you have? Because I've got something too, but go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Big, I was not made aware that anyone was investigating me, nor was I made aware as a board member that there was a committee talking about me behind my back, not in open session that I knew about. And I was not aware that Kelly Vollmer had made a complaint against me. Other than 2 days ago when our agenda came out and I saw all of this. And I was unaware that the Brittany Newell was hired to investigate me because there was a complaint from Kelly and then a complaint from the lady with the Aspen program, Ms. Brown. Don't you think it would be correct to bring it to an open meeting and say, we have Kelly Vollmer has submitted a complaint. Ms. Brown has submitted a complaint. And then as the chairman, I would say, well, you know, there's a lot here. Maybe we should have a committee look into the allegations. You're in a position tonight where you've drafted up this, and all this is going to be attached to it, that this report from the investigator. And I've read through all of it and completely on both of these, and I don't see anything correct or true. So where's my due process? Where do I get, where do I get? Where should, this was not, this was not right. I was not notified.
Folks, this is not a removal. This is a censure. You would, excuse me. I'm telling you, please. I will have everybody removed if we're not gonna maintain.
Mr. Chairman, do I still have the floor?
Hang on. This is not a removal. This is a censure. Just make sure we're clear of that. Ms. Davis. Continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If my character and this is a public record going to be filed on me, my character, my demeanor, accusing me of this, alleging that I need to be able to have my attorney, I need to sit down with my attorney, I need to go through all of this and I need to explain. And then we can't do this tonight. You cannot censure me tonight. I have not been notified by the board. I've not been notified by Kelly Vollmer that there's even a complaint, or by Miss Jacqueline Brown that there's even a complaint.
Mr. Chair, may I clarify? that the
Negative,
process-
please. Can I have a clarification? We will have it from legal. Ms. Coleman,
Would you like me to clarify?
our questions of,
Okay, so the process for entering a censure is contained in the bylaws. It does not require a particular due process except for the opportunity to respond to the allegations, which Ms. Davis has done. And she's also been provided with a copy of both of the investigation reports. This is not a removal. It is, I mean, the bylaws are very clear. As a matter of fact, if we were to strictly be following the bylaws, it would have been a removal because she's already had a censure for similar violations of bylaws. But the board, we talked to the committee, this was the direction the committee wanted to go ahead and give her another opportunity to try, especially considering that we've had some turnover in the board and we have a new chair to try to comply with the decorum of the meetings and to comply with decorum and how she speaks to staff members. And the investigation report, as far as the evidence, so the investigator looked to, actually, by the way, the investigator did not interview either the complainants or Ms. Davis. The investigator watched the public YouTube videos about the meetings and watched how Ms. Davis conducted herself in those meetings. And also read the written communications from Ms. Davis in order to make the determination as to whether or not that conduct violated the bylaws.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, you wish to continue?
I do. You can't vote on this tonight until I've had time to go over all of these allegations and respond back to you. If they're founded, fine, okay, censure me. If they're founded, but not if they're just allegations.
Okay.
Okay, and in order to be founded, I have to be, Kelly needs to say, board, we have a problem. I have a complaint against Susie Davis. And then in the next meeting, you put it on the agenda and we talk about it. This was not done, sir. This was
Mr.
not
Chair,
done.
may I please just add that I am an employee of.
Hold on a second.
Personnel.
Hold on a second. I did not give you the floor, please. Mr. Deal.
Davis, do you think it's not more fair to have an independent person look into this? If they find nothing, this doesn't come out publicly. If we do it the way you want to do it, or you're suggesting that it be done, it's a public issue from square one. You may feel this is unfair. I think it's the most fair way to do it. This was done by an independent person. And there was no public information given to anyone. And all I could say is that, again, people read the reports. We're not talking about being uncivil in meetings. We're not talking about comments that people make to each other. These are some serious situations where false information is given to the public, which has caused a lot of confusion and a lot of the mistrust that we're seeing. I don't know what else to tell folks.
Mr. Pick.
If you knew the truth, you wouldn't have the questions that you have.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask that the chair direct the public not to refer to me as a bitch under the breath. Thank you.
I will clear it, folks. Please stop. Civility. If you are not here for my opening remarks, please be civil. You may not agree. I get it. We disagree all the time. Please be civil. Ms. Ballmer, please be brief.
The only clarification I was going to make that is the board is the employer of the director. Hence, I am an employee of the health department and I am subject to the protections of the employee handbook laws. Hence, any investigation that involves an employee is also a closed document is also a closed document until there is a decision that is made. This will be unusual in that if this, depending on the outcome of whatever your vote is, there's a potential that a private personnel document investigation will be released as public information, which is unusual. That is not going to. That's
Ms. Davis, do you have further?
Yes, I object to
I
the
understand you
whole way
object.
this was handled, sir.
I understand your
We should
objection.
backpedal a little bit here, because, I've read through this. And everything stated here is things that I do as my duty, as a trustee. And I want to say this, I'm an elected official, like you, Amber, Tammy, and Mr. Deal. Okay, none of us are any better or worse than another one. We all are the same, okay? We have duties to do. And I take pride in my duties that I perform here for the health department, okay? I would never try to harm Kelly in any way. I don't call her names. I read thoroughly what bullying is. Calling people's names, raising your voice at them, blah, 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 intimidating. That's not in my character. I don't want these things in public going out against my character. This is not true. This is not who I am.
Ms. Davis,
And, sir, do I still have the floor?
I'm gonna interrupt you
Do it.
because I was in a meeting when you threatened Ms. Vollmer. I was in a meeting.
Okay,
So,
well, let's
let me
just, we'll see. Hey, I
I'm just
want
sitting
to see
right
that.
here.
I want to see that threat, okay? But
I think there were other people present as well.
wonderful. We'll see that. I want to see that evidence, okay? But
Okay.
right now, there's no evidence here.
There is
No. Nothing's been
I'm
shown
calling
to
the
me
motion.
other than
I'm
I
calling you
just
to
got
order.
this.
I'm calling you to order. We have a motion and a second on the floor.
Mr. Chairman, I do need to finish what I'm saying.
Ms. Davis, you're repeating yourself.
No, I'm not. I've got something here that I would like to read.
Okay, Ms. Davis.
Thank you. Okay. We're the elected officials, we're not the employees. Why is it that just because someone has a different view or opinion, we tend to think that only ours is the valid point? To think that only ours is the valid point is not correct, folks. I have the right to post what I want to post, to speak what I want to speak, to be right. I have a right to be wrong if I give out wrong information. I have that right to do that. That is not against the law. We tend to think only our points of view are correct. But what about just because either you don't like me or you may not agree with me, does that give you a right to censure me? Does that give you a right to completely forget about what we hold dearly in our Constitution, which is the freedom of speech? When I speak at a meeting and someone else interrupts me, that's just as bad as me interrupting someone else. And yes, that's wrong, but that is not something to censure someone about. We can do better and we should do better. But to do this to me and put this all on public record, this is not right. And you know it's not. And going behind, and we did not, as a board, vote to pay, to hire Brittany Newell to investigate me. And again, I was never told I'm being investigated until a couple days ago when I opened up my agenda back. At the very least, let's be fair. Let's be fair. Let's table this and come back to it at another time, when I've had some time to look through here and pull things out and say, okay, that might be valid, or no, it's not. And give me a chance in a meeting, maybe a work session or something, a committee. You know, when Kelly has an employee that she's having a difficult time with or a problem, or there's been a complaint from another employee, I'm sure that she doesn't just talk behind closed doors and never brings that employee in and asks them, what about this particular thing? There's 3 pages of things here. I've not been asked anything. And now you're going to, as a board, censure me with things that will go on public record from now on and think that that's okay? I do deserve a due process, whether whether it's in the bylaws or not. I deserve to be presented with Ms. Vollmer's complaints and with Ms. Brown's complaints. And I deserve to be able to go through with Ms. Vollmer and with my chairman, each single one. And I deserve to have an attorney present. Because if these are true allegations, bad enough for a censure that this would go on public record against me, I deserve some legal representation. So I strongly suggest that we do the right thing here, and we backpedal, and we don't do this tonight. And we give me a chance with a meeting with all of us and talk about each thing. And by the way, in 2021, when I was censured in front of all the media, there were 3 or 4 things. She said, one thing, I took a film when I came to do my duty. And Kelly Vollmer, I was told by Dennis Steele when to come, and I came. And when I came, Dennis Steele couldn't be here. Kelly says, Susie, you can't go in there. I said, Kelly, why can't I go in? It's my duty day. Okay, so she said, you're not going in. So I turned my phone on. I took a film of Kelly Vollmer and I, just us. Maybe someone walked by in the background. You couldn't distinguish them. So when I was censured about that item, I asked you as a board, I said, please provide me evidence, the film that was taken where you say I exposed clients' identities in my film, and let me see the film. You did not give that to me. You also accused me of being unprepared coming to meetings and being late for meetings. I said, in my response to your censure, I said, please provide me the dates and the times where I was late or I came unprepared. Again, there was no response from this board or from the attorney or from Ms. Vollmer. The third thing that I remember that you said to me in the last censure was that it was the film, it was I'm late and unprepared. Oh, that I am opposite or not in line with Kelly Vollmer's vision that
Mr. Chairman, I ask
Sure.
that I be addressed.
Excuse me.
As you.
Excuse me.
Yeah, and
You're
the
out of
director.
order. Please.
Thank
refer
you.
to her
Thank
as
you.
director. Thank you.
I remember it was that I assert authority when it comes to our director. I said, please give me examples of that where I've assert authority and was disrespectful. Okay. No one answered me. No one. So that happened in 2021. Now here we are again. So you're going to go behind my back, make these claims, form a committee, hire Brittany Newell without a board vote. I think that's against the law, sir. I think that you would be putting yourself in a liable position if you censure me today.
Well, we'll have to see that. Any other discussion from any other members? Okay, I have a first and second on the floor as a motion. I need a roll call vote.
Mr. Gill? Mr. Gill, sorry.
Oh, yes.
Mr. Pig,
Yes.
Dr. Henry,
Yes.
Ms. Stidham,
No.
Ms. Davis.
No.
Motion carries 3-2. Next order of business is closed session. Are we gonna need a secondary closed session to this or not?
Yes.
Okay. Would somebody make a motion, please go into closed session?
I make the motion to go into closed session.
Pursuant to all the stuff on the back.
610.0211. Which is cause of action or litigation involving Jefferson County Health Department any confidential and privileged communications between the Board of Trustees of the Health Department and its representative and attorneys, 610.0211. Hiring, firing, disciplining, or promoting of particular employees by public governmental body when personal information about the employee is discussed or recorded, 610.0213, and records which are protected from disclosure by bylaw, 610.02114.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the point?
Why are we going into closed session? For what reason specifically?
She just read them off.
Well, just tell me, is it a personnel matter
Personnel, legal,
or is it a legal matter?
yes.
Before at the other closed session, you told everybody why we're going into
She
closed
just,
session.
she just,
Well, okay, so all of those?
just read the whole thing right there.
Right, so are we going into
Yes.
closed session, sir, for all of those? Or
Yes,
for one
yes,
thing?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. She just read it off. Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Pig,
Yes.
Mr. Deal,
Yes.
Mrs. Stidham,
Yes.
Dr. Henry,
Yes.
Ms. Davis.
I'm gonna file an objection to going into closed session because we weren't specifically told why. Just so you know.
If I may indulge. As it was read, we'll read it again. We're going into closed session pursuant to 610.021 subsection 1. Any confidential or privileged communication between the Board of Trustees of Jefferson County Health Department or its representatives and its attorneys. Section 1.2 is hiring, firing, disciplining, or promoting of a particular employee or employees by a governmental body when personnel information about the employee is discussed or recorded. Section 3, the records which are protected from disclosure by law in section 14.
So it's
We also have minutes we have to approve. It's what I read there. It's those things, right?
thank you for the
You're
clarification.
absolutely, it was read twice, so. Are we good? Take a roll call?